swear to God, remember Susie last week?
Yeah.
Giving me a number, right, and all she's done is phoned our house constantly. Not it, mate. Right. Phoned our house, bring that glass back here, don't run off with it. Right. She's constantly phoning our house all the time, and our house is going mad, going mental. I just don't even know what to do. Are you coming in tonight? Yeah. See you later on, chick. Down. Alright, don't touch me. Hey, I said don't touch me. Yeah, don't touch me. Hey, Whammy. Oh! Wasn't here. Wasn't here. Yeah.
The punch that changed my life and almost cost me my life.
This is the story of Graham Seed's life so far. A lot of it isn't pretty. It's a story of anger, violence and despair, but also of hope and redemption. It's a story of a journey not yet completed. Graham was born into the tightly knit working class community of Berwick Hills in Middlesbrough. He was christened Graham, but his grandmother soon changed that, and it stuck. Although not well off, Graham was a happy, if mischievous child. Little sign yet of what was to follow.
There was a lot of us in the house, and that crammed in a little house, and there was me, my mum, Nana, Grandad, Terry, John, Derek. There was a lot of us there, you know. So this is the area where I grew up. These garages here where you see this part here is where we used to kick the ball around, and it used to be real fun. The funny thing is our house is there, and out the top window you can see us, but because that fence was there we thought no one could see us, so we used to get up with lots of mischief here. But this part of my life was really good memories. That house there is Auntie Sylvia and Uncle Les's. They weren't real aunties or uncles, it was just out of respect because we were my mum's friends. But I used to gather spiders from behind the walls, these walls here, and gather as many as I could, and then work my way into someone's house, especially that one, and put the spiders in the beds and cover the sheets up and try and stay awake on the night to hear the screams. I never stayed awake, but I heard lots of stories about the shock of horror when they pulled the sheets back to get into bed and there was, say, 50 or 60 spiders in there.
A childish prank, but greater horrors than spiders were to come. For now, let us stay with the naughty 9-year-old boy about to move from pranks to something more serious. He and his friends had a favourite trick they played on the barmaid of the Newcastle House pub. Usually it ended with them stealing crisps and soft drinks, but this time Graham got rather more than he bargained for.
I was always stealing, always from anywhere, people's houses, wherever. Me being me, thought I'd grab a bag of crisps one day and it ends up being a bag of money, which was an added bonus really, because the shop was just around the corner. And you know, I remember the shopkeeper asked me where I got the money from, because in them days it had been quite a bit, you know.
So far, Graham had done nothing worse than many another schoolboy. But when his family moved to another part of town, trouble began to brew.
we moved and I got a chip on my shoulder, to be honest, and didn't want to move, and thought these people thought they were better than us, and you know, and it was my own doing really. But you know, my nana went into hospital. She had electric shock treatment, and that really hurt me. You know, there was a few times when she was really ill, and they had an effect on me. You know.
Stealing became a habit, the sign of a life starting to unravel. A string of breaking and entering, burglary and theft offences followed, and at 16 he was locked up for the first time. 4 months of his young life was spent behind bars in Medhamsley Young Offenders Institution in County Durham. But things were about to go from bad to worse.
Well, I started to act really rebellious, really, and started using my fists instead of using my mouth, you know, to talk to people. There's one thing I can remember is I got bullied a bit when we first moved to this estate. Lots of nasty words said about me, and it came a time when I took enough really, and I took notice of what people had told me before and lashed out, and found that when I hit people, they didn't say out bad about me anymore.
Robbery and theft were now accompanied by violence. He began to use his fists to win arguments. It came easy to Graham. He was growing fast, heading towards 6'6". No surprise then that the hooliganism that plagued football in the 1980s acted like a magnet. So did the front line, a tough bunch of hooligans following Middlesbrough Football Club.
My first ever match I went to, it was an eye-opener really, how much fighting there was if you wanted it. Travelled a lot with Middlesbrough. I used to go with the front line on the trains and down to Manchester, down to Millwall and West Ham and all the clubs that had a firm, and Hull. We had lots of battles with Hull and things like that. We were playing West Ham once, and I was caught with a double-edged Stanley knife just outside the Indian Market in East Ham. There was another time we were playing Everton. I was in this pub called the Tennis Courts with a few of my friends, and it all kicked off, and I came out of there and didn't even see it coming, but a lad pulled a knife out and just went like that and just missed my throat and took a bit of my chin away, and I obviously retaliated then, and then there was another kick off. Another time I was hit over the head with a blunt instrument, which is, I don't know if you can see the delve in my skull there, but I was hit with almost like a sword-like object, and then I had a bottle stuck in my eye at one point, and then there was another time I was stabbed in the arm and chest 4 times, you know. So, and at one point I had both my arms pulled out the sockets, but all my hands are knocked in, you know. And but I just thought this was life, see, because this is all I've seen, you know.
In a rising tide of crime, Graham's life was spiralling out of control. Between 1980 and 1990, he went to jail another 4 times for football-related violence, assault and robbery offences. For breaching the peace during a football match, 6 months in Deerbolt, County Durham. Causing affray and grievous bodily harm to Nottingham Forest fans, 12 months in Deerbolt. Grievous bodily harm and affray again, this time almost 4 years in Deerbolt, then Durham Prison. Causing actual bodily harm to a police officer, another 12 months in Durham. But for the first time as he sat in his cell, he began to question his way of life. He wanted to get away from all the bad influences surrounding him on Teesside and was determined to start a new life. He knew a family in the Wakefield area of West Yorkshire, and on release, that's where he headed to reclaim his life.
I had this plan that if I moved away from the area, I would find a better life and make a new start, and it all went wrong. I got the sack from the job I was in, and I started working on the nightclub doors, and one night there was a fight broke out.
Don't touch me. I said, don't touch me. Yeah, don't touch me.
And I see this guy running over. I thought he was going to hit my mate with something, so I just like hit him. And it turns out it was an undercover policeman. And that was it. I was back in trouble again.
Back in trouble and back inside. 2 years in Armley Jail in Leeds. And the punch that ended his freedom also ended his attempt to start a new life in Wakefield. Upon release at Christmas time in 1992, he'd been away from Teesside for about 4 years. He headed for his old stamping grounds and a big welcome home party.
When I was on my way home on the train, coming back from Wakefield, I was had this weird excitement inside me, and that I was going home. You know, I'd been really depressed, and I was kind of hoping that getting back to Middlesbrough would make me happy again, you know. And obviously seeing my old mates, I'm sure it would have made me happy, so I was kind of excited about getting back to the borough. Went into the pub. The guy who I'd known for a long time just basically said, "I haven't seen you for a while, where have you been?" I don't know whether I was expecting a balancing, but he's Grand for Mayor. I don't know what one of them, but I did expect like some of my mates to be there, you know, and to greet me, you know, but actually there wasn't.
Disappointment piled on the anger he felt inside, and now Graham's life started to spiral out of control. He began drinking heavily to kill the pain he felt inside. Then he discovered hard drugs.
Well, I drink basically anything I get my hands on. But I started smoking dope, and then eventually I was chasing the dragon with heroin, tooting heroin, and I started on crack. I was doing anything, you know, to try and get a kind of a buzz from life, you know.
Graham thought he was living the high life, when really his world was rapidly unravelling and the streets beckoned.
I ended up sitting on a bench drinking about 28 pints a day, White Lightning. I knew that because that's how many I'd buy on payday, and that was what I aimed to get every day. It was ice, it was rained, it snowed. You wake up, it was ice on the floor, you know. I'd often wake up sometimes where my clothes were stiff through ice because, you know, I'd weed myself, or I'd been in the rain the night before and it'd been icy all night, and I'd wake up and the first thing I'd want to do was get a bottle of White Lightning down my neck.
Special change, please.
But what I used to do is that I'd be in different parts of Middlesbrough. So what I'd do is I'd always make sure there's a bottle of White Lightning somewhere. So I knew where the bushes were, so I'd put them in like under the tunnel, going over the border, one in the bushes at Grange Road for on the night when I came back, and one at this flat that I used to sleep in sometimes. There'd be one in there hid away. I've often seen me wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, even later than that, and like in a semi-conscious state, but ravenous, really hungry. And I've gone along to like the shops on Linford Road and found like food that people throw away, or you know, I used to try and follow people who would throw food away and it was still hot. So I could eat it while it was still warm and I knew it was fresh. But many a time I'd take a pizza box or a kebab box and open it and eat the meat out of it to try and, because I was so hungry, you know.
Things were bleak and about to get bleaker. In 1993, Graham slashed his wrists. A police patrol found him in the early hours of the morning, bleeding heavily. He was taken to hospital and saved. But even as his life descended into the gloom of total chaos, there appeared the merest glimmer of hope in the darkness.
I was sat here one night as just a normal night, and from over this way some lads came, and they'd been to McDonald's and they'd been praying, and I was sat here and this lad came over to me and said, did I know Jesus loved me? And I chased him, but I didn't really want to know about God because I couldn't see where God would fit in this life. But yeah, this bit here is where I very first heard that Jesus loved me and that there was hope.
Hope, but not before despair. By 1996, he may not have known it, but Graham was about to stare into an abyss few of us can imagine.
So obviously I sat on this bench, didn't realise that my insides were shutting down. They were starting to give up. I mean, I was abusing them something really bad, you know. Ended up going into a coma in August of 1996.
I used to go to bed on a night thinking if the phone rings, I'm going to get a phone call to tell me that something's happened to him. And eventually this did happen. I did get that phone call. This phone call that I dreaded for 10 years eventually came.
Several things wrong with me. I had septicemia, my liver was shutting down, I had pneumonia, hypothermia, severe malnutrition, severe dehydration, and then my kidneys started failing. Apart from that I was okay, but I was in a chronic critical condition, and my mother was asked to come to the hospital.
I just didn't recognise him. He was in such a bad state, and the doctors took my husband and I to a room and says to us, he is really poorly, he's really bad, and if you wish we will turn the machine off. And I said, you can't do this, he's only a young lad. He was only 32 at the time.
And then these Christian lads came, there was Pete, Aidan and them came, and Nicky, and prayed for me, and I woke up and started breathing myself. I seen my mother was there, and she said to me, you've been extremely lucky, she said. And I said, what are you on about? And she told me that I'd been in this coma for 6 days, and that these lads had prayed for me. And my initial thought was, what does Jesus want to know about a scumbag like me for? And that was the first thing I remember, you know.
And I honestly and truthfully know that if it wasn't for them, I don't think he would have made it. He saw the light. And if ever there was a miracle, that miracle happened to Graham.
He had cheated death, but still needed a purpose. And slowly, that purpose became clearer.
And I went to this Alpha course. I had no front teeth. I threw them away one night in a Kentucky Fried Chicken box. And I went into this course, and there was a woman there. And I can't remember what I said, but it was something down the lines, well, where's the effing toilet? You know, and she was like, really wondered what we're going to do with him, you know. And I went into this course, and I was still swearing, and, you know, very apprehensive about the people I sat with. And, you know, I didn't realise that most of them were there to find out more about Jesus themselves. I know for a fact that when I was in the coma, when I'd woke up, there was definitely something different about me. But I was on the Alpha course at the Eaglescliffe, the Oakwood Centre. It was about the 6th week in. I suppose that I made the choice then to open my heart and really, you know, follow Jesus, you know. Morning, church. It's good to be here again. So 10 years ago I started visiting people in prison on visiting orders, hoping that one day maybe the miracle would happen and I'd be asked to go into the chaplaincy. I knew it would have to be a miracle from my past, a violent crime and spending many years in prison. I knew it needed some type of a miracle.
For Graham, that miracle did happen. He was invited to bring his message of hope and faith to the inmates of various jails and young offender institutions.
I met one young lad about 5 months ago here, and he wasn't smiling. He didn't seem to have any hope in his life. And if you see him today, he's a different lad. He's smiling. He seems to have hope for his future.
I liken it to running the worst youth club in the world every day of the week here. There's always something happening, always somebody falling out with somebody, always somebody angry with somebody else.
Graham comes in on a very ground level. He relates to the kids at their level. They have a lot of respect for him because he's been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt and can talk about it, you know. But he doesn't make the lifestyle sound glamorous. He tells it as it is so that the young people know if they continue to offend what they potentially can expect.
My crime, what I did, it wasn't all me, and I stood back as it happened, and I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and something got carried out, and a dead body's ended up in the end of it, and I've been come here on her, and I'm gonna have to do some time for it because I was there at the time.
That's what I come for, to bring a smile to young children's faces, which, like I say all the time to the public, that these are only young children who've lost their way.
I've been getting into God a lot since Graham's been calling my solicitor, and he's religious, and I've been like trying to pray, and there's the lad on the block as well who's been praying for me.
What he's actually saying is look at my experiences, look at what influenced me, look at what some of the choices I had to make at various parts of my life.
As far as I'm concerned, Graham brings an element of reality, of spiritual guidance where young people want it and need it, an experience, and he brings with him a personality that is huge and people are able to relate to and feel like they want to listen to and feel like they want to communicate with. So he brings a lot of skills and a lot of experience, and he allows young people to talk, and he respects young people, and that goes a long way with our young people. He's a whole package really.
What happens and happens for a reason, and that like God will always love us and all that. And that he says he prays for me, and he's a good man, he's Graham. That's all I can say.
But his work isn't limited to the inside of jails. Simon Foreman is leaving Home House Prison in Stockton today. For almost 2 years he's attended the Alpha course there, just one of more than 100 Graham has led. Today he's on hand to help Simon settle back into society.
I used to go back to my pad after the session with Graham, and I used to think about what he was saying, and it brought tears to my eyes, you know what I mean? I used to cry myself sometimes, you know what I mean? I was going from there really. Next time I went down, I started getting more and more into it. I've done the Alpha course and all that.
The Oakwood Centre in Eaglescliffe on Teesside has been crucial to Graham's rehabilitation, and at 2:45 p.m. on the 9th of November 1996 he welcomed Jesus into his life. 7 months later he was baptised there at the age of 33. The Goshen Trust is a Christian charitable trust which supports the Oakwood Centre and has been behind Graham all the way in his struggle to reform.
He has an enormous faith. I mean, there's an unbelievable transformation in his life. And he has this incredible ability to be able to walk into prisons and to tell people what Jesus Christ has made in his life and how it's changed his life for the better. You know.
Well, I've worked with Graham as his pastor for several years whilst he was kind of opening up his ministry. I think Graham is the man for the job. He's great with people. He's beginning to get a group of people around him who can do the things that he's not gifted at, and he can concentrate on what he's best at.
And what he's best at is making a difference to people's lives. People like Liam and Helen McFarlane from Richmond in North Yorkshire. Now happily married and with a young family, things weren't always so idyllic.
I thieved, I cheated, I robbed, I did anything I could. I taxed drug dealers, took money off people who were going to buy drugs. I was just a nasty piece of work, really.
I remember one occasion getting out of bed one morning to go to work and getting to put my uniform on and almost standing on a syringe with the needle still in it. And I remember going mad and saying, you know, this has definitely got to be it, you know.
Things took a turn for the worst, even worse than they were, when I got into a quite a violent pub fight, and I bit the top of a lad's ear off. I ended up going on the run. The police were looking for me, and I ended up in a desperate state, like just robbing and thieving and eating at homeless shelters and stuff like that, staying in homeless shelters and stayed on the streets a couple of nights and stuff like that.
The currency in prison is phone cards, and one of the first ways that I knew that Liam really had changed was I started getting loads of phone calls, and he never had any phone cards to phone me before because they all went on drugs. So I started getting these 15-minute phone calls every night, and I thought, oh my goodness, and that was actually the biggest testimony to me that something good was happening. And right from the very beginning, Liam mentioned Graham frequently in his phone calls and his letters.
Well, you couldn't put a price on it. It's that important. You couldn't put a price on it. You know, he's literally saving lives, saving souls, if you like, changing lives, and he's literally going to change criminals into taxpayers.
So there you have it, the story so far. A story of many chapters, with many more still to be written. He'll be the first to admit his mistakes, and because of them, Graham's life has been no picnic, no walk in the park. He doesn't ask for sympathy, just a chance to change things for the better, for himself, for others, for all of us.
I learned how to live life really, without drink and drugs and all the things that I thought made you happy. Probably the best thing that happened to me after that, after knowing Jesus, was I met Natasha. We got married June the 19th, 1999, and now we've got 2 children, Caleb and Boaz. So I suppose everything I've ever dreamed of having, I've got this wonderful life, you know. There's only Jesus ever could have done that for me, I'm 100% certain.